where our veterans' voices are heard. MBR Talk.
Hey, thanks for supporting our channel by watching and listening.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
Theme song is gonna play or not. I don't want to have it playing in the background, and I don't even know. So let's check and see if the Trench Talk theme is gonna play this week. There it is. You tuned into the Farron Dozier Show on mbradio.us, Trench Talk Edition, and Life Force Sports. Catch me here Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, only on mbradio.us. How'd I do? Was that a good take? That might work. All right, good evening. Welcome to the Farron Dozier Show on KCAA Radio, 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Also streaming from the KCAA Radio.com website and mbradio.us. We got to bless the show before we get started. Let's go. When I was in my mother's womb, I had a calling on my life to do something in the glory of God and marry it like a wife. Commit myself to his word and never be led astray. And when it's all over, when he comes, I'll be glad to see that day in the morning time. Hey, what's up, man? How you doing?
I'm blessed, my brother.
I'm good, man. I'm good. Hey, did you see the game last night?
Oh, that was a good game.
But did you see the shot?
I lost money from that shot.
Oh, man, that shot was cold,
I
man.
hated it, but it was good. Damn. What's in those jeans?
You really want to know?
I do.
Exhaustion, muscle spasms, asthmatic issues, unexpected sickle cell trait crises.
Damn. Are you serious? When I was young, I found out I had sickle cell trait. My mom's told me, but I ain't have no knowledge of it. But when I got older, I had a child, and the doctor told me my daughter has sickle cell trait. Do you know the facts that both parents have sickle cell trait? There's a 50% chance the child may have the trait, and 25% chance the child may have the disease.
Hey, that's what's the count. Do you know that 2.5 million people in the United States have sickle cell trait, 300 million people globally? I didn't find out I had sickle cell trait until I was in the Army, 10 years. Next thing you know, I had a sickle cell trait exertion site.
Sickle cell? I thought that was a black gene or something.
Nah, man, the Latin community is number 2. 1 out of 36,000 babies are being born with sickle cell disease. You could be Caucasian, Mediterranean, European. You gotta know your bloodline, man. There is an inherited gene in our community that has been forgotten. The name is sickle cell trait. WDCONSCT, also known as What's the Count, is out to bring awareness, education, and prevention to people all over the globe. Want more information? Call us now at 323-215-5384 or visit www.wdconsct.org. Do you remember studying sickle cell in biology class? What's the Count on sickle cell trait prevention is here to bring you awareness, education, and prevention conversations around the risk factors of this inherited gene. Visit wdconsct.org. Zetovia salve, made from natural and organic ingredients, good for inflammation, poor circulation, hemorrhoids, yeast infection, lip sores, dry coughs, eye pain, minor cuts and bruises, and ready to purchase at botanicaherbalco.com. 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 All right, welcome to another episode of the Farron Dozier Show. I'm your host, Farron Dozier, of course. We are on the Military Broadcast Radio Network. That's right, MBRradio.us. Make sure you go and you see that little QR code up there in the left side of my screen, your right, possibly. Make sure you go there, support veterans here on this platform. They're giving veterans a voice. I am one of those veterans, blessed to be a part of this network and able to share my story and other stories around veteran topics and issues and discussions, right? Let's see. We're gonna have just a little quick conversation about some topics today that I want to discuss. I'm still dealing with becoming an author. I don't really like that identity or that title. However, I have written some inspirational reads called the Life of a series, and they are 10 reads that we will be talking about, but not all 10 today. I got a couple that I want to address that boils down to just the child and father and child and mother relationship. We know that those are key conversations. So just make sure, if you have questions, you want to be a guest, hit me up at Farron Dozier on all your platforms. You can shoot me a message from the website as well. Just let me know and I will reach out to you and we'll discuss an opportunity for you to be a guest and share your story on this platform with us. So as I mentioned, what even had this conversation show up for me today is because I have been just kind of listening to social media, and I listen to social media because I want to hear like the pulse of the conversations, right? Because you hear this 60-second clip, and then they take this conversation, and then they either chop it up to make it say what they needed to say, right? Because it doesn't show that person saying that conversation in one breath, right? It's usually chopped and chopped, and then it's chopped, and then it's chopped, and then this narrative that gets created. And unfortunately, when I was in radio broadcasting school, TV broadcasting school, we made a promise, and I made a promise to myself that I would not be that kind of broadcaster, right? Because you could take a person's interview, chop it up, and make that person sound like the worst person on the planet, right? And they call that slander. So for me, if you watch my shows, it's all the way through mistakes, errors, all of it's included, right? This is real life. I may edit some clips out, but even those clips are in a continuous format. I don't create a narrative based off of what I've said in an hour episode or past episode. So as I'm listening to just different conversations, and I have friends, we share different Instagram posts. We share, because of stuff that we're talking about. This is our spiritual conversation, and so you got to hear where people are in the world so you can meet them there. And so I've just been hearing this whole discussion about mentors and mentorship. And yes, there's nothing wrong with mentorship. We know that that's an important conversation. But what has it that the child has to seek a mentor outside of his parents' house? So what is it that a child has to go get a mentor to learn about life, and not from its immediate family, not from its immediate father and mother, brothers, uncles, cousins? We promote mentors. And I'm not saying that this is not a right or wrong or good or bad conversation. But when I look at it for myself and I look at it from life itself, and I'm like, you know what? There's something to that. There's something to that conversation about having a mentor, and then that child has to then seek outside forces for support. So when I looked at my own life, right, because I don't think we talked about mentors when I was young. I don't think that was a popular discussion, right? So I'm going to talk to you today about just some personal experiences. I'm not a psychologist or therapist. I'm a patient advocate. So I've done a lot of work around my own life, 16 years. That has allowed me to even still be in front of you today. And I'm just going to share you some of the principles and some of the ways that I had to go back and search life from a different perception. And really, that's what it is about perception. My inspirational reads that God has given me to deliver in those messages are about perception. If you understand the brain Do you understand how the mind operates? Perception is key. You have perception patterns, memory patterns, and action patterns. And those are all stored in your memory. And a lot of times that's where we go to have a meeting with ourselves to find out what happened the last time I did that. Oh yeah, I was disappointed. Definitely don't want to go that route no more. So then, we have these conversations about ourselves to ourselves. And sometimes the information that we have about ourselves to ourselves is also slightly corrupted because of our perception, because of our memory patterns, and because of our action patterns. And so we wonder why life continues to look the way it does, because your memory patterns and your perception patterns and your action patterns are guiding you to behave and to view life in a particular fashion. And again, this is not right or wrong, good or bad. This is just the way that the brain operates. So when you learn about that, and then you get in conversations where you get to question your perception, not everybody's willing to do that. Not everybody's willing to question their perception of themselves. We definitely question the perception of other people quickly. But do you question your perception of yourself? And so as I've healed in these particular areas that I share from, that I've written from, there 3 of the most important ones are the life of a 2-year-old, the life of a 5-year-old, and the life of an 8-year-old. And those 3 perceptions, by the time I was 14, they were corrupted. I put it that way. They were definitely corrupted. And so I'm going to share with you just kind of some of the conversations. You can, whatever you do your research on, whatever you are used by in life, whatever your ideologies, your philosophies, and your theologies are, you can take these conversations and self-examine yourself and possibly discover some levels of reconciliations and even some levels of self-forgiveness, right? And so when I looked at that, and I was like, where do we start? Where do I start with that? And so I've heard, not saying that it's the truth, but there's partially an empirical truth. If you ask people in your life and just get a sense of how people think about this question, is the mother the first love of that son? And is the father the first love of that daughter? Right? So there's some conversations that say that the son is hardwired to the mom and that the daughter is hardwired to the father. And by hardwired, it means that child is connected, attached to, and perceptions are coming from and learning from that particular parent for a period of emotional connection or whatever that is for that child, right? So if the son is connected to the mother and the daughter is connected to the father, then what does that look like? What does that look like when that perception is broken? What does that look like when that transition happens and that child is now disconnected from that mother, that son, and that daughter is connected from that father? But also, the male child will be disconnected from the father just the same as the daughter will be disconnected from the mother. So it's not just an either or, but there is a part of that conversation that if you look at it in life and you look at the behavior and you look at how we act and how we respond in relationships, you could see that could be an empirical truth. And one of my, first conversations, and I want to set a context in the conversation that this is not about blame. This is not about talking bad about. This is about healing around our parents. This is talking about healing, right? So no blame, no disappointment. All that stuff for me has been transformed into my life stories and how I can use this conversation to maybe soften the heart of someone else who could be stuck where I was stuck at for 40 years? Who could possibly be stuck in a relationship as I was for years, and even put ourselves in positions to be stuck because there was something broken in the connection between the child and that parent? So as a father and a son and a grandfather, I've been able to look up the chain to my parents, and I've been able to look down the chain to my children and now my grandchildren, and realize, like, oh my goodness, there has to be some conversation, especially based off how I grew up and how I treated my parents, and then how I treated my children, and how I get to treat my grandchildren today. And for some people, they never discover that for themselves. For some people, they end up, they die like stuck. They die alone. They die in resentment and regret. They die in upset and frustration. But guess what? I don't mean that they're dying dead, like off the planet. I'm talking about dying emotionally. Like we walk around like dead to ourselves, and sometimes dead to our family, because we never want to feel those emotions, those pains again. And so unfortunately or fortunately, what does that look like? And at some point, I had to tell the truth to myself. I was willing. And hey, out of all of that conversation, the last 16 years, you know, I'm in a different place today. And no blame, no more shame. I'm not embarrassed about my past. I'm not disappointed in myself as I was. I'm not saying it doesn't show up still. I'm saying that I recognize it, because I recognize my perception patterns. I recognize my memory patterns. I recognize my action patterns. And those get expressed how? Sometimes it gets expressed in your behavior, in your character, in your personality, or in your body language. And the downside of that is people perception of your body language and your character and your behavior and your personality. They take that and they make it mean something about them. And then now there's an issue. You understand that? See, my body language has nothing to do about who you are. My perception about myself has nothing to do with who you think I am. My behavior really has nothing to do with you. It's all about me and what I'm dealing with. And so when you do that work and you discover that, and you get a glimpse of that experience or that behavior that you've been acting the way that you've been for so many years, and you realize, why do I act like that? Why do I do that? Why do I behave? Why do I say that? Why do I act like we don't say that out loud to each other though. We say that to ourselves. Your subconscious mind and your conscious mind are in a battle with each other, because your subconscious mind runs what's in your heart. It's doing its best to keep you safe. It does its job very well. It does its job very well. It does not want to feel ashamed. It does not want to feel embarrassed. It does not want to feel disappointed. Not in myself. Now, we feel like that in other people, but that still refers back to me. If I'm disappointed in you, that means I'm still dealing with something inside Farron. And so that scripture that says, love your neighbor with the same measure that you love yourself. If I only love Farron 50% of the time, what you going to get? You're going to get one of them sides of them 50s. You're going to get that 50% that I don't like about myself, or you might be on the side of the 50% that I do like about myself in that moment, or in that conversation, or in that level of comfort. So again, when you understand and you recognize that within yourself first, there's no way in the world that you're not gonna, I don't even want to say change. There's no way in the world that your behavior won't alter. There's no way that you won't realize that, oh my goodness, if I deal with this, what are you dealing with? But everybody's not willing to look at that. Everybody's not willing to self-examine themselves and tell the truth about their past experiences and how we filter life and talk through. Right. And so I'm not saying as father and mother that we don't do that, but we do that. Right. And so the healing conversation and the journey of reconciliation, it may go as if you're an adult and you have children, you might need to go to your parents and reconcile. Then you might need to go to your children and reconcile. But then you also got to reconcile with yourself at some point. Because for some people, it's hard. It's hard to have to challenge that perception and look within ourselves and realize that maybe I have been wrong the whole time. Maybe that story that I made up about my mom was my truth, but it was not the truth. And maybe the story that I made up about my dad was my truth, but it's not the truth. And so as an adult, then you have to go back and look at the mind of a child. What's the perception of the mind of a child? So you have to go back and give yourself some compassion of how you even grew up sometimes, because the brain of a child is developing. The brain of a child is absorbing information, even sometimes before language. We know that happens, that they've discovered that even in the womb, depending on the emotional state of the mom and the chaos and the environment of that mother and that father, that the baby could be impacted inside the womb. So if that happens inside the womb, what do you think happens when the baby is in this world and the baby is growing and developing and the mind, the baby, but the mind of the baby, the mind of the child is what is so important. The mind of the child, and for some families, gets disconnected. It also gets discounted because it's a child. Oh, he doesn't understand. That child doesn't know what's going on. That child is not, there's no way that child could understand about this divorce. So I'm not even going to talk about the divorce. I'm not going to talk about the breakup or why the dad's not here anymore. I'm not going to talk about why the mom's not here anymore. I'm not going to talk about to the child because the child's not, she doesn't understand. The child doesn't understand. Oh, let me tell you. Do the work. Do your work. Be your work around your childhood age. Do and be the work, or be and do the work of your childhood thoughts, of your childhood ideas, of your childhood experiences. Be and do the work around your perceptions of your childhood. And when you are willing to do that work, and you're willing to tell the truth about yourself, to yourself, about your personality, about your character, about your behavior, about your body language. I'm not going to say change because some people fear change. That's a whole nother topic. But I can tell you that you can alter your perception. You can alter your behavior. You can alter your personality. You can alter your body language. You can alter your character. And it's not hard. I used to say life is hard. I used to say life is dangerous. Life is exciting. Life is fun. But you hear that? Life is hard, fun, exciting, and dangerous. And I have no control which one, every one of those pop up. In this moment on this broadcast, life could be hard right now, but you can't tell. These cameras and these platforms could be dangerous, and I could be stuttering, or I could still be talking like this and experiencing danger because I'm not going to express that. But you might see it in my body language. You might see how I slump over or my facial expressions. Like you might like, oh, there's something wrong with him. So are we really hiding it? Are we really pretending? Are we really pretending to look good and not look bad, to look good and still feel bad? So it's not always about looking good. It's the experience of yourself on how you also look bad. And some of us will do whatever it takes to not look bad, especially in public, especially on a broadcast, live, especially in front of your friends and family. We pretend to look good. But where does all that come from? Why is it in our adult life we have to go back in time to heal those childhood areas? So I'm going to talk about mine. And again, this is not about right or wrong, good or bad. I love my mom. I love my dad, who rest in peace. And I'm good. I have no ought against my parents. I have no ought against myself. I still deal with stuff because my perception patterns are still there. I got more on the opposite side than I got on the positive side. That old Farron is still in there. Oh, it's like an app on your phone. You accidentally touch that app that you ain't used in 6 months and it populates. That's still in your perception. That if somebody says something right now, I could really say something crazy. I could curse. Oh, because I was in the military. Well, of course, I was in an environment that cursing was allowed. It was an expression of words, of feelings and emotions when you curse. I don't have to. I'm aware of that. But it's still in there. And it still might come out every now and then. Shouts out to my basketball players. The IE Hound. You know, so, but what is that? Are you aware of your character? Are you aware of your personality? Are you aware of your behavior? Are you aware of your body language? And I believe most of us are. We know. We know what's going on. But sometimes knowing makes no difference. Sometimes because you know something doesn't mean that you apply it to your life. Just look in your own life and see. We know smoking is bad. We know alcohol is bad. We know working out is good for the body. We know certain foods are not good for us. We know that certain places that we go are not healthy or good for us. We know that certain people that we talk to, see, it's different when you put that up against another person. And that's why we're having this discussion. Because yes, there are rights and wrongs in the world. There are opinions about different parts of life in the world. But when you have an opinion about another human being, that's where the waters get muddy. You know, you ever been in muddy water? That's where the experience of life becomes more intense. It becomes more challenging because you love that person, but they're not acting how you need them to act so that you could act a particular way. So that you could be a particular way. But I have to wait till you do that first. So when you act like that, then I'll act like that. But we don't start off like that. We start off as a child, loving and caring and in the mind of wonder and asking questions about why and what is this and why is that and where is this and where's my mom? Where's my dad? That's the mind of a child. That's the same mind that Christ is talking about that can get into the kingdom of heaven. The mind of a child. See, the mind of a child is at an age of wonder. See, the mind of a child does things and they play for no reason. We used to be like that, right? Remember when you could do something for no reason at all? Remember when you had the freedom in your heart to just do stuff for no reason? Remember you treated your children and you raised them and you taught them to be that kind of way for no reason? You see, the same way that you taught that child how to walk, do you remember the compassion that you gave that child? Do you remember the love and the encouragement that you gave that child when it was time to walk? Not even crawl. Some people don't crawl first, they just walk. But in this context of this conversation, can you remember treating your child or being treated as a child to walk? And every time you fell down, there was encouragement from the whole room sometimes. Sometimes the whole family is gathered around to see you take those first steps, to see you at Thanksgiving ready to walk, and we're all waiting for that anticipation. Do you know that experience? Do you remember how the family gathered and rooted for that child to learn how to walk? But is it to learn how to walk, or is it for that child to discover balance? Right? Is that balance? Do we teach that child to discover how to walk or for balance? Because that balance is going to be important, because it's going to be attached to walking, bicycling, playing sports, getting up and down the stairs. All that is attached to walking. But what that child really discovers is balance. And once you get balance, for the most part, you never lose it. So remember encouraging that child to walk. I remember my daughters encouraging them, even Aiden, encouraging them to walk. Encouraging them to walk. Get up. No, raise it. Let me help you up. Stand up. Come on, walk to me. Dude, you got this. You know that? Where did that go? Where did that love and compassion and encouragement go? Where did that go? Did we lose it because the child starts to misbehave because of rebellion? Because the iniquities of frustration and anger gets wrapped up in that child's mind? Or because all of a sudden they're on the table dancing, and now when dancing on the table at 2, 3, 4 years old was cute and funny, at 6 and 7, dancing on the table is not allowed now. So get off that table. When you used to say, dance on the table. Perception. So I'm going to take this commercial break, come back, and I'm going to talk about a couple of my inspirational reads and for what it looked like for Farron. I pray that you see something for yourself. Again, if the son is hardwired to the mom, and the mom is the son's first love, and the daughter is hardwired to the dad, and the dad is the daughter's first love, what happens when that is broken? What happens in the experience? Not just the activity of it, but the experience of it, the emotional experience of that break in communication. For some, it's damaging. This is the Farron Dozier Show on the Military Broadcast Radio Network. Shabbos Abbas account.
Hey, what's up, man? How you doing? I'm blessed, my brother. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Hey, did you see the game last night?
Oh, that was a good game.
But did you see the shot?
I lost money from that shot.
Oh, man, that shot was cold,
I
man.
hated it, but it was good. Damn. What's in those jeans?
You really want to know?
I do.
Exhaustion, muscle spasms, asthmatic issues, unexpected sickle cell trait crises.
Damn, are you serious? When I was young, I found out I had sickle cell trait. My mom's told me, but I ain't have no knowledge of it. But when I got older, I had a child, and the doctor told me my daughter has sickle cell trait. Do you know the facts that both parents have sickle cell trait? There's a 50% chance the child may have the trait, and 25% chance the child may have the disease.
Hey, that's what's the count. Do you know that 2.5 million people in the United States have sickle cell trait, 300 million people globally? I didn't find out I had sickle cell trait until I was in the Army, 10 years. Next thing you know, I had a sickle cell trait exertion site.
Sickle cell. I thought that was a black gene or something.
Nah, man, the Latin community is number 2. 1 out of 36,000 babies are being born with sickle cell disease. You could be Caucasian, Mediterranean, European. You gotta know your bloodline, man. There is an inherited gene in our community that has been forgotten. The name is sickle cell trait. WDCONSCT, also known as What's the Count, is out to bring awareness, education, and prevention to people all over the globe. Want more information? Call us now at 323-215-5384 or visit www.wdconsct.org. All right, welcome back to the Farron Dozier Show. A little bit on that sickle cell trait awareness. If you go to my website, wdconsct.org, you will see that I have an opportunity to go to Africa. I've had a couple of opportunities to go to Nigeria, as well. However, what can I say? This is something that was created in 2011 in the futures session of the education that I was in. And I didn't believe in writing down, like a vision board. I never had nothing. I don't know about. I'm not gonna make up a story about where the question was, if I seen you in 5 years, Farron, what would you be up to? So you want me to sit down and write down today that when you talk to me in 5 years, what would I say that I've accomplished and what I've been up to? I didn't believe in that. I was just coming off this depression in life that was over. And you want me to try to figure out who I'm gonna talk to you about in 5 years? I denied that conversation. But what I was asked was, are you going to do the work and do the class the way it's designed? See, sometimes we don't do life the way it's designed. We don't do these educations. We don't take these classes and do them by the way they're designed. But it's normal. It's normal because we struggle up against those principles. We struggle up against those perception patterns because my perception is mine. Those action patterns are mine. Those memory patterns are mine. How could I come up with a conversation with memory for future memories? But because I was willing to do the work and I had been in that education for a few months and this is the third class in that curriculum because I hadn't done my seminar yet. There's 4 pieces of the curriculum, but I was on the 3 main pieces. So that last piece, because I was willing to do the work and tell the truth to myself, I sat down and I answered the questions. It was structured. Now I didn't just make it up. It was a structure, and it asked specific questions. And so I wrote down specifically who I was going to be and what I was going to be doing in the future 5 years from that day in May of 2011. Now, mind you, that was the spark of my sickle cell trait advocacy identity, right? Because Farron was dealing with identity crisis with my rank and my uniform is who Farron was and what Farron did in life. And when that was taken away, I didn't know who I was. So I was lost. And I made it mean that I was lost. And I said it out of my mouth that I'm lost, that life is over. I said that out of my mouth. And by me saying that, my subconscious mind collected evidence to prove to myself subconsciously that your life is over. You said it, so let's gather the information. And my mind gathered, it had enough information, baby. Woo! I had enough proof. I had enough evidence. I had enough to know that, oh yeah, buddy, that voice in my head, that's why, because your life is over. See, we don't. You got to be able to pay attention to that voice. So in that education in 2011, I wrote down, I imagined all the stuff that who I could be as a sickle cell trait advocate. I wrote down all the types of places that I wanted to go. I wrote down the stuff that I would be doing. I wrote down the type of people that I wanted to meet and the famous people. I wrote down the organizations that I wanted to work with. I wrote down a whole list and I turned it in. And she took that and she compiled it and then she gave it back to me. And then she said, read it to me. And when I read it, I was like, who is this guy in 5 years? Who is that? Like, that's not me. Who's this? But guess what? I've tracked it. It's in my calendar on my phone. It reminds me. I read it every now and then. I think I've only read it to like 5 people on the whole planet that knows about that list of who I said that I was going to be in the future. And I can tell you, in 2026, from 2011, that at least 50% of that future that I created has been accomplished. I've experienced it, I've done it, and I'm on the way to being it, all in the same context. And guess what was on there? Africa. Africa was on my list to go there because I know that that's where the sickle cell trait gene is, why we're number one as African Americans, as Black people. We're number one because sickle cell trait combats malaria. So my ancestors who came from that part of the world where malaria was present is how they survived. So can you imagine that when I sit back and think about my sickle cell trait, how many people that gene was passed through all the way to get to Farron? I don't even know. How many generations did that inherited gene called sickle cell trait, that mutation, get passed along through other family members of my family, through my dad's side? That gene came to my father, that came to me, and then I passed it to my daughter. Like, who thinks that? And so the opportunity to travel to Africa, you can go to my website, wdconsct.org. Right on the first page, I got to put there. You can read the flyer. It's this June. I'm in the process of getting my body immune system worked up. I interviewed Dr. Sebi before he passed in 2013, and I'm taking his supplements. I'm doing one of his compounds that he created, of what he used to cure people, to heal people with the body. So Botanica, you hear that commercial, Botanica Herbal CO. I am actively engaged with them, and I am on their supplements. I'm on their compound that they still produce, and It's like 90 days. I got to do it for 3 months. And by June, I should be ready because I got to take those vaccines, right? So I'm conscious. I want to make sure that my body is at the point where if I could flush the mucus out of my blood and regenerate my body with the minerals and enzymes that I'm getting from this Dr. Sebi compound. See, let me tell you how it looks, right? So your normal red blood cells live about 120 days. If you have a normal adult hemoglobin A red blood cell, it lives about 120 days. It goes through the process of your body and boom. And then your body, your bone marrow, it regenerates more red blood cells, right? I have one that's normal and I have one that mutates. So my sickle cell trait gene mutates. It is what it is. We're not fighting malaria, but there is also a health complication and other health complications just by having one copy of that gene. So yes, it serves its purpose, protecting me from malaria. However, in certain conditions, and what's going on with your body, with my body, sometimes that gene might mutate and can cause some health complications. And for some people has been connected to some sudden deaths. And I'm a messenger. I'm not going to say I'm just a messenger, but I'm a messenger of that conversation now. That's what I discovered, right? And so imagine that if your immune system is weak and mucus is in your inflammation, right? Then what that does is imagine that you're taking these supplements, you're drinking the sea moss, and you're taking all the stuff that you need to take, and you're eating properly. You're not eating foods right now that are going to cause inflammation. You're not going to eat preservatives. You're not going to eat stuff that's frozen in the freezer that has preservatives. You're not going to eat that. You're going to find as close as organic to natural food that you can possibly get in today's age, and you're going to eat that. You're going to get the fruits that's in season. You're going to eat the pineapples. You're going to eat the strawberries, whatever that's on the list for you to eat. So imagine you're eating that now. I'm not eating junk food. I'm not eating chips. I'm not eating Doritos. I'm not eating, I love me some Mexican food. I love hamburgers and hot dogs. But imagine I remove that from my diet. And now as I'm taking and drinking these supplements, as those red blood cells die off, and as the mucus in my body, inflammation in my body is being pushed out, the new red blood cells are being generated, and now their new cells are coming in. You understand that? So as I'm pushing out the inflammation out of my body with the compound, and the old cells are dying off that contain the mucus, and they're getting flushed out of my system, and the new cells are being regenerated and being generated in my body, guess what happens in 3 months to 4 months? The mucus is gone, and my body has created new red blood cells that aren't being attacked by mucus. Do you understand that? That if you clean the mucus out of your blood and the new cells are coming in and regenerate, and they're dying off in 120 days, so guess what happens? Your body is cleansing. And then you're feeding the body what it needs to regenerate itself naturally. And guess what? Your immune system is rebuilt. Your body is becoming healthy. The alkalinity. I mean, they say that cancer cells can't survive in an alkaline body. The cancer cells can only survive in an acidic body, the acids. And we eat foods that have a lot of acid. We eat foods that have a lot of hormones, preservatives. So in order for me to go to Africa and get these vaccines that I'm going to need to survive, I gotta do this for my, not just for myself, but for my health. So WDC on SCT.org. If you want to check that out, I have some more information. The website information is on there. I've just been truly blessed to be asked to go on this with this church mission and to bring sickle cell trait as a conversation to the land of where my gene is inherited from. So I'm not even excited yet because I don't even know. I don't even know where my mind is at right now. I'm still in a little level of shock. But when I look at that futures that I created, it's right there on paper. It's right there on paper that I designed that and I put that in the future and I've been living into that future. So all this sickle cell advocacy work that I've done, who I was being as an advocate, do you see how my life got altered from it's over to becoming an advocate? Let's see, I went from defending this country as a soldier to now defending this conversation around sickle cell trait because it's still not known. It's still not talked. It's only been around 116 years or something. It's not been discovered that long. It's not been discovered. It hasn't been discovered that long, but it's been around thousands of years. And so I've taken that conversation. I'm responsible. I'm using my life experiences of what happened to me in the military, that I almost died and collapsed, and all that conversations, and just giving people the basic knowledge, the basic awareness. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a researcher. I don't have a PhD, but I be in the rooms with them. I'm in the room with them answering questions because they're still studying it. And I get to use my life as an example of what happened to me, articulate that, and then have them do some research about that. That's why the rhabdomyolysis is so important today. That's why student athletes have to be screened to play college sports, because that sickle cell trait has been causing some health complication in athletes. It's also been causing complications in military veterans. But it's been causing complications as a global conversation. So not only is my conversation for the United States and those that are interested in it, but overseas. And I don't brag, I don't talk about that, but I'm already an international speaker. But all those titles don't matter to me. It's the opportunity to get to share this message. That's most important. So WDC on SCT, truly blessed. My story is in the Bible. Judges chapter 4, Deborah and Barak. I'm Barak, the soldier in that story. I have a talk I did on that. But yeah, so I'm in alignment. I discovered why I was born, and that has been my journey. That has helped me stay alive. And I know that God gave me that. God gave me that message in my mother's womb, that I was born with that sickle cell trait gene. And some people spend their life trying to figure out, why am I born? No, we all ask that question. We might not ask it out loud, but we seem to ask it to ourselves, because there's something in you that knows that there's something that you want to be and do that's way more fulfilling than surviving this life. And was I ready 16 years ago to go to Africa? No. Was I ready 5 years ago to go to Africa? No. But for this time, I'm ready. So yeah, in my mind, I should have went to Africa a long time ago. I could be saying it's about time, God. But I wasn't in the season for this work. I wasn't. I thought I was. But I have grown so much in this conversation. I've done so much work around this conversation, but I've also grown as a person. And that's what we're talking about today. Your character, your personality, your behavior, and your body language. So let's talk about the first inspirational read, right? And this first one, I didn't discover them in this order, right? But then when I put them together in the sequence of discovery, I was able to discover a 2-year-old decision that I made about my mom. And that 2-year-old decision is called Life of a 2-Year-Old Disconnected with Love. Disconnected with love. A 2-year-old. Now, how did the 2-year-old know that he was disconnected from his mother and I could barely talk? And if you listen to my previous interview with Caldwell Williams, Caldwell saw his mother cut his umbilical cord and said, "Don't cut me loose." And he was just born, laying on her chest. Now, he's 91 right now. And he still remembers his mother cutting his umbilical cord when he was born. Because he went back and talked to his mother with that memory. And she said, "Yeah, that's what happened. How do you, I never told you that?" No, she never told him that. That he said to himself, "What are you doing? Don't cut me loose," as she's cutting the umbilical cord. So for me, I can go back to age 2 years old, the life of a 2-year-old, and how does a child understand being abandoned or the presence of that mom being absent? Because that first disconnection was with my mom. And as a perception of a child, as we talked about earlier in this conversation, the perception of a child, believe me, I had no idea what was going on. I had no idea what was going on. No clue. I was 2 years old. I'm 2. I'm goo goo gaga, barely just about learning how to walk. A little bit of language, but not enough to express myself to say that I was disconnected from my mom at 2 years old. But the experience of it, that's what we're talking about. The perception of it is so important, parents, because that child needs information. Now, I'm not saying that if my mom would have told me, "Hey, Farron, I'm going to be leaving you with your grandparents," or even if she did say it, I don't remember. I'm two. All I know is that I'm now living with my grandparents and my mom is not around. And not around like she's out hanging out and around. No, there was a conversation that was had with my mom and my grandparents. And they told my mom, "Leave him here." Because my mom got up early in the morning. This is the story that I was told, that she got up early in the morning to go to work with her new job, that she's raising me in her new apartment by herself because she didn't go back home. So she's like, what, 20 years old, 21 years old at the time, and got a 2-year-old, and she's making it work. And my grandmother is allowing her to drop me off to babysit me while she's at work getting her life on track. Like, that's a beautiful story. Like, that's what grandparents do, right? That's what family does. That was what we do. Or what we did. So it made sense that they would come to my mom and say, "You know what, leave him here. Leave him here. Pick him up on the weekends. We'll watch him. Get your life situated so you can be prepared and take care of him. But in the meantime, we got him, and just pick him up on the weekends." And my grandmother took me in, and she watched me. Now, I can tell you that Farron was an emotional child. I can tell you that today, after all the stuff that I've done, the work that I've done. For me, Farron is an emotional child. And for Farron needed information. Farron needed information. Because if you put information to your child's mind, in their heart early, guess what? When that subconscious mind goes to refer to why am I at my grandmother's house all the time? Oh, it's because they told me that I was going to be here while my mom is at work because the A, B, C, and D. Not because I'm abandoned or I'm disconnected and she doesn't care about me or whatever the mind makes up about that situation. So the thought and the information wasn't there so that I made it up what it mean about myself and about my mom, but more so about what I made it mean about myself at 2 years old. Come on, man. Come on. We all are somebody's child. We've all experienced some level of that in our life. I know I'm not the only one. But in my mind, it was disconnection. And so when my mom picked me up, I cried. I don't want to be with you. I want to go back to mama's house. That became my new perception. That became my new emotional attachment. Disconnected from my mom to now my grandmother. And we laughed. When I grew up, we laughed. We talked about it. My mom recognized it. And she would say, that ain't gonna never happen. That ain't gonna happen against my other children. But I was already in the thick of it. But I can tell you today that that wasn't a bad thing. I was not abandoned. I was not even disconnected. That's what my family did to take care of me, to raise me, to support my mom. That's family. That's not Farron's perception of disconnected and I'm abandoned. But ultimately, if you look at it, what is that? It's normal. It's a normal break. It's a normal break in communication between the child and the parent, between the child and the mother and the child and the father. There's a natural break in communication if you tell the truth and you experienced it and you got a story about it. Whether if it was the day they left you at kindergarten at school and they walked away and you cried to go with them, you know, a lot of us, for some children, that's that emotional break right there. That's a disconnection because I've been with you all these months, all these years, these 2, 3, 4, 5 years, 6 years, and now you're gonna leave me? Oh no, baby. No. But that's the mind of a child. That's the child's perception as it develops. So that story, imagine living from that 2-year-old disconnected from his mother. It wasn't from with love at the time. It was from abandonment. It was from, I don't know why I love her, but I don't know why I don't know why. I don't want to be around her. Or I want to be around her, but then there's this space, this feeling that like we're not connected. That I love my mom, but I wasn't connected to her. So imagine you don't find that out until 53 years later. Imagine you discover it 38 years later, but then you don't get to work at it until another, how many more years later? Where you actually uproot that story, where you uproot that thought, where you uproot that body sensation, where you uproot that story and realize that, oh my God, my mom did the best she could with what she had at having me at 18, 19 years old and being 21. And look at the greatness of my family support system that my grandparents did for my mom and did for me. You got to go back and talk to your family. You got to go back and ask your mom what was going on when you were born. You got to go back and talk to your grandparents and find out what was going on. Because your perception is only one piece of that puzzle. Your memories are only one piece of that memory. And your actions are because of your perception and your memory. And usually it's not empowering. Usually it's disempowering. Usually it's a fracture. Usually it's a wedge. That's why we call it about trauma. That's why we say we got mama and daddy issues. We say that and we know that and we look at that, but do we apply that and look at it from, not about? I had to go back and look from my life, not about my life. If I looked at it about my life, then my mom definitely, she left me, and I didn't want to be around her, and I was disconnected. If I talk about it. But I learned how to talk from my life. But I had to find conversations that I trusted, that I had confidence in, that I could tell the truth to myself about my life and from my life, to see if that's really what those thoughts are. To challenge those thoughts. And I use multiple things. And I use cognitive behavior at the VA for my ideology. CBT will challenge your thoughts. If you're willing to tell the truth to yourself and put that word in that conversation. That's the 2-year-old, a 2-year-old. And I didn't get that until 53 years later. So how do you think life turned out? How do you think your life would turn out if you've been living 53 years disconnected from your mother, with a corrupted perception and a corrupted memory and corrupted actions towards your mother? How do you think life turns out? How do you think it turns out? That's enough to have someone's life off track. That's enough to sabotage relationships. That's enough to treat your mom in a way that she doesn't need to be treated. And if the mom is your first love, then how do you think you're going to treat your next loves? Or are you even going to have another love of your life? Are you going to ever experience love when it's broken in your mind from your mother as a male? There's a lot of these topics about men, and men don't mature till later and age. And you know what? Hey, you know what? I say that that's true. I'm 55 and I'm just like, dang, this is, you mean to tell me I had all the, even though I survived those first 55 years of my life, I survived it, but now I'm in a space where I get to live life a little bit now. Like I get to test it out differently. I get to get some new perceptions on some conversations. I get to look a new perception of myself. Wait, I get a new perception of myself? But I always thought that I wasn't good enough. I always thought that I wasn't worth it. I always thought that I wasn't loved. I always thought that I wasn't accepted. And I thought that I had to do these different things to be loved, to be accepted, to be enough, to be worth it. But usually those things that I had to do to get that acceptance was more damage, because that's not who I really wanted to be, and even doing the stuff to be accepted. Sometimes we lie to be accepted, just to feel accepted, even though it's a lie. So can you imagine the first one, the 2-year-old mind, the 2-year-old being disconnected from your mom, your first love, the one that you don't care about her going to work. I don't care where I want your time, mom. If a child could talk at 2 years old, that's what the child's mind is saying. Where are you at? Why are you not around? I don't care. You got to go to work. What that mean? You got to go to work. That's the mind of a child. The mind of a child wants our time. Time. And so guess what? I got the time from my grandmother, not from my mom. My grandmother took over that time because I ended up staying with her from 2 years old to 8 years old. So can you imagine the bond that I had with my mother, my grandmother? That my grandmother would lie to my mom so that I could spend the night. She would tell my mom, "Oh, he's asleep. Don't worry about picking him up." And I'd be in her lap looking up her while she's on the phone like, I want to go. And she, "Oh, he's asleep." That's my grandma. Man, you know how many good memories that I have now? Do you know that I was able to transform those perceptions into just love from my family, from my grandparents, the love from my mother? It's different at 55 now. It wasn't like this at 50. It wasn't like this at 20. It wasn't like this at 5. So what I'm saying is your perception of your father and your perception of your mother is so important. I'm not saying your experiences is like mine, but I'm willing to bet money that we all have some version of this disconnected from our parents. We all have some version if you tell the truth. And that's all I'm saying. You got to be willing to tell the truth. If you're not willing to tell the truth to yourself, you're not going to tell the truth to anybody else. You're not going to tell the truth to the mental health provider. You got to tell the truth to yourself. And so that's what I discovered at 40. That, wait a minute, not only is my life ain't over, I got some stories in this brain and these perception patterns that I can remember that story about my grandmother and my mom. I can remember crying with my mom, like, I don't want to go. I want to go home. I want to go to mama's house, crying. I remember that. So that was emotional pain. Do you understand that? But it was corrupted perception. It was corrupted. It wasn't the truth. That's what I didn't know what it was to be an adult at 2 years old. The child's mind doesn't understand that. Do we forget that? Do we forget the child's perception is of a child and of wonder? But as soon as it's broken, as soon as the mind can no longer wonder, and now it's a decision of I'm disconnected. What do you think happened when I made that decision that I'm disconnected from my mom? How do you think my behavior changed? How did my perception change from that day forward? And today is such a beautiful story. I thank God that He allows me to use this story to share as a message. It was mess, but now it's a message. And yeah, I can still be mad. But when you transform, when you get a new perception and you look at it from another view, or you willing to look at it from your mom's view, or you willing to look at it from your dad's view, or your grandparents' view. See, I didn't give up the story. The stories are still in there. The perception patterns are still in there. That's how I survived since I was 2. But I got another perception. And then I get to challenge the old views and realize that, first of all, I don't want to be disconnected to my mom. I love my mom. I truly want to be involved with, so then if that's the adult me, why would I allow my mind of a child get in the way of that? But it did for 53 years. Not anymore. Not anymore. And imagine the same thing with my dad. The 5-year-old, the life of a 5-year-old, the perception of my father. That was the first one that I wrote because I healed my dad first. See, I didn't heal with my mom first. I healed with my dad first. And I'm grateful to God that I was allowed to heal with my dad first because my dad passed away in 2019. And actually, I was glad I did with my dad because it made me realize who I was as a man and who I was as a boy and the corrupted perceptions of a child as a boy. What do you think I brought into my manhood? I brought the same attitude of the ingredients of what I made up about my father. I mirrored my parents. The more I resisted like being like my parents, my mom and dad, I became just like them in my own version. That's what you have to understand, people. You have to understand that the child is a mirror of you, the perception, and it's usually a negative. It's usually negative. And so we wonder why the child needs a mentor or the child needs to go and get a coach. And then the coach is the one that the child falls in love with because the coach is the one that's talking to them hard and putting them through life challenges. And the father's like, man, I tried to do that and you got mad at me. The mom is like, I tried to be there for you, but you had an attitude with me. The dad's like, what? That's the same way that I was taught to raise you. But you're good with the mentor talking to you like that. You're good with the coach talking to you like that. But your father talks to you like that, and I'm the bad guy. I got an attitude. Why? Because the perception of the child to the father has been broken because the child could be disappointed in you, dad, mom. The child could be disconnected from you, from a story that the child made up because you wasn't there. Or because the relationship fell between you and mom. And so I don't understand what a breakup is. I don't understand what divorce is. So now I'm torn and maybe I was the cause of the relationship failing. Maybe they didn't want to be together because it's my fault. Come on, y'all. And there's biblical scriptures. See, I use personal development, right? And I transformed. But the education wasn't gonna save my soul. And I don't know if people are concerned about their eternal life or not. Some people aren't even aware or to know about their eternal life. Or they heard about it growing up in church and with their grandparents or parents, but I wanted my eternal life. And so the personal development and the all those other classes, oh man, they softened my heart. Let me tell you, my heart got softened. My heart got softened. That's the mental health education. That's why I advocate as a patient advocate for veteran suicide and youth suicide and mental toughness and emotional intelligence, because I had to go renew all of that for myself just recently in the last 15 years, 16 years. So when you talk about emotional intelligence, you talk about therapy, you're talking about mental health, like those are hot points in today's age, and it's only getting worse. I'm a patient advocate, and God is using me to share my story from his word. Yes, from the educations as well. I can talk from cognitive behavior. I can talk from cognitive behavior because I had to put those stories about my mom in the CBT course to realize that my thoughts of an 8-year-old was so exaggerated that I wasn't abandoned. That the life of an 8-year-old, the latchkey kid of 1978, from my perception with my mom, I was abandoned by my mom at 8 years old. So you imagine living 32 years thinking that your mom abandoned you. You see the years? Think of being 14 years old and you make the final decision about your peers that says, I'm not going to be vulnerable and have to defend myself in relationships. That's the life of a 14-year-old. The day I gave up being vulnerable at 14. And to just a month ago, discover that that's not even the truth about me. To uproot, I'm not vulnerable for 41 years. Some of y'all not even 41 years old listening, watching. 41 years not being vulnerable from 14 to 55. 53 years of living that I'm disconnected from my mom. 35 years that my dad didn't love me. And we wonder why our relationships fail. We wonder why relationships fail. We wonder why the suicide ideation and mental health is such a hot topic. And I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with mentors. I've got this ABA basketball team that we're using to hopefully get into the school district so that these players can become mentors, or however we decide, coaches, to share this information that I'm sharing with you in this talk show so that these children can start to heal and return their hearts back to their parent. Yeah, don't wait. You don't have to wait till they're 40 years old. You don't have to wait till you're 20 years old. You don't have to wait till you're 18 years old. You don't have to wait till you're 12 years old. We could do that at 8. I had to plant seeds in my little grandson's heart at 5 because he made up a story that the kids don't like him. At 5. My decision was at 2. Another one at 5. Another one at 6. Another one at 8. Another one at 11. Another one at 14. Another one at 23. Another one at 36. Another one at 40. We make these decisions one after another to survive. To survive what? I'll leave you with that. To survive avoiding shame. Do you know what it feels like to be ashamed? And hold that in, though? Like to walk around ashamed of something of your life or something that you did or didn't do, and it didn't turn out how you thought it should. And now there's shame present. See, I follow the God of my grandparents and my mom and my dad. So when I look in the word, you look at Adam and Eve, that's the first time we see shame enter human. Shame. Remember, they went and hid when they realized after he ate the knowledge of the tree of good and evil. Remember, he ate that? And then they ran and hid and covered themselves with leaves. It's a parable. Shame. Most of us walk around avoiding shame. You cannot avoid shame. You cannot avoid being ashamed. You can't. But you can definitely learn some skills to give you the strength and the knowledge and understanding of who you are as a person, so that when you experience what you think is shame, your perception can challenge that. Nah, I'm not going to be ashamed of that. But it happens so early in age that as an adult, you're acting it out. As a teenager, you're acting it out already. It's already in there. It's already there. Disappointed. I was disappointed in my parents, disappointed in my mom, but I was more disappointed in myself as I got older. It was really a reflection of myself, of being disappointed in myself. And imagine being so disappointed in yourself that you don't even want to make no more decisions because you think it's the decisions that you make are making you disappointed. When it's not the decisions, it's the reasons why you're making the decision is what you're getting stuck with disappointment. With the unspoken expectations or the expectations of it should turn out like this. Or hoping that it turns out, or doing something in order to get something from somebody, and then they don't give it to you or respond how you think they should respond. So now you're disappointed. But you're not disappointed in them only. You're disappointed in yourself. Like, damn, Farron again? Dang, how did I do that again, man? What's wrong with you, man? Why don't you get it together? What is it? I can't figure this out. That didn't happen today. That's a perception of a child that's been fractured. Usually from the mom and dad. And then the peers. So by the time you're 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, you've made that peer decision to the point, thank you, Holy Spirit, to the point where I'm an entrepreneur. Like, I'm working by myself. I'm an entrepreneur because I don't trust nobody. I don't trust my peers. That's why I don't like that entrepreneur spirit. That entrepreneur is a selfish spirit. I just think you had to say that. Selfish. So the disconnection, the disappointment, I didn't start figuring that out till 40 years of my life. That's a lot of time to be walking around disappointed in myself and still trying to have a family, still trying to have a job, still trying to provide, still trying to live my life, still trying to figure out life, still trying to stay alive. But I'm walking around disappointed in myself, not because of my bad decisions, but my ingredients of what I'm making up my reasons about life from and about. And that last one, embarrassment. Those are the first three in the Bible. Look at Eve. Look at Genesis. Look at Eve and Adam and Eve's story. Embarrassment. Do you know what it feels like to be embarrassed? But where does that come from? Who taught me disappointment? Who taught me to be ashamed? And who taught me embarrassment? Guess what? It's already in you. You're born in that rebellion. The Bible calls it sin. Sin is just rebellion up against God's word. But if we're born in iniquity and shame, and we're born in sin and rebellion and wrapped and shaped in iniquity, that means you get wrapped in that disappointment. You get wrapped in that shame. You get wrapped in embarrassment, and then you live from it. It becomes a part of who you live life from. And then you talk about it to yourself. And I never want to be embarrassed again. I never want to be ashamed of myself again. I never want to be disappointed in myself again. And that becomes your perception of yourself. And then the anger and the frustrations and all the other stuff is just the surface of it. That's how it gets expressed. I didn't want to live like that anymore. I got to the point that life was over, and it was over. But there was a little blip in my mind. There was a little voice of that mustard seed of faith, the Holy Spirit that was in my heart since I was 16. Suppressed, though. He was not called upon. He was suppressed, and I didn't believe in God because I couldn't be perfect. But there was something in my mind that heard that seed of faith, that heard that Holy Spirit say, it's time. There's got to be something better. And I heard that like, it's got to be something better. It's got to be something better. 39 years old. Like, is my life really over? And I said, there's got to be something better. You hear that? Just the way I said that life is over, I said out of my mouth, there's got to be something better. And guess what? The Holy Spirit used all this stuff that he put me through to get to see that life is better. To get to see that life wasn't over. To get on this path that God has given me these messages, and that I could share that with confidence, with a level of confidence. I ain't in 100% confidence because sometimes I don't believe y'all care about sickle cell. But guess what? It might not be for you. It's for those who need to hear that message when it's delivered. So your perception. For my veteran brothers and sisters, I promise you, if you just don't wait till you get out to take cognitive behavior therapy. Don't wait till you get out. Don't wait. Find it. You got VA benefits, you're active duty, go to mental health. Go to mental health to develop, not as a survival state to fix something after the fact. See, if you go to mental health before or during, you deal with that stuff before you get out. Now, you're going to have injuries. I'm not saying that doesn't make you not a perfect person, but we can interrupt that veteran suicide. We can, you might still need some therapy. You might still, there's nothing, like I said, there's nothing wrong with therapy. We need that to soften our hearts. But what are you feeding your spirit? And that's what I'm at today. For the last 6 years, I've been feeding my spirit. But I found that the religious and the religions, systems, it's a relationship. And it's my relationship with Christ, not my mom's relationship, not my dad's, but they were examples of their relationship with God. My grandparents were examples. And honestly, I don't see nothing wrong with the Bible's principles that teaches you how to treat people, but to also try to treat yourself first. Gotta love God with all your heart, soul, mind, body, all that. And then you gotta love your neighbor with the same measure as you love yourself. Those are the only two commandments. And it's really one. Because if I love God and love my neighbor with the same measure I love myself, then I don't want to hurt you. I don't want to talk to you crazy. I don't want to kill you. I don't want to do nothing. I don't want to do anything if I love God and I love myself the way that I love you. And so with the cognitive behavior, I had to measure how much I love Farron. I had to stop saying I don't love women. From the 2-year-old disconnected from my mom and the 8-year-old of abandoned by my mom. And then my dad doesn't love me. I had to go back and reevaluate that and use some principles. Because you're used by principles already. You're used by negative principles. Your life, your mind is being ran by principles that have you think that the world is all jacked up and your parents don't care about you and your mama don't look and your uncles and your siblings. I'm the black sheep. You hear people talk about that. That's a disconnection from their family. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong. We definitely go through things in life. But at least I could love you only as much as I love myself. So if I only love myself 25% of the time, I can only give you 25% of the time. But if I love myself 50, 60% of the time, and I recognize that I don't love myself the other 50% of the time, then it's me to go look at why I don't love myself for the other 50%. And then that's the work that I go do. I don't blame you for the other 50%, but I definitely put a shield in front of me of that 50% that I don't like about myself. And if you speak to any of that 50% that I don't like about me, guess what, baby? We got problems because you don't get to tell me about myself. Even though I know you right. Even though I know you telling the truth about how you see me and how I'm acting, but you don't get to say that. You don't get to say that to me. That's that 50% that I don't love about myself. So the more I go work at my weaknesses and turn them into my strengths, guess what? The percentages shift. My experience of myself grows from 50 to 60 to 70. And now I love myself 80% of the time. And that 20%, I'm aware that I still got some work to do, so then I don't put it off on you. Because I realize I'm also poor in spirit. And poor in spirit, recognizing that, is where humility comes into play. Yes, of course, those classes allowed me to soften my heart about myself. So yeah, those personal development classes had me be a better person. That was the start. And God uses everything for his good. So it just led me right back to his word. So now I filter all those worldly conversations to see what God has to say, to see what Christ had to say, to let the Holy Spirit guide me so that I could get the information and get my knowledge and understanding. But also I need to get comprehension. And when I get comprehension, guess what I get? I get revelation from my life. And then I take the knowledge, the understanding, the comprehension, and the revelation, and then I get to apply that to Farron's life. And that's all I've done the last 16 years. Well, 6 years with the word, because I've only been back in church 6 years now. So 10 years of Landmark, and then the last 6 years of the word. I fed my spirit. My heart was softened, and I get to be here in front of you today. Do I have to manage all that stuff from the first 40 years? Of course I do. Of course. There's perceptions, there's memory patterns, there's action patterns still in there. But I added new ingredients. I added some new principles. I added some new distinctions. So when those old things come up, that's not who I am today. That's not who I want to be. So I choose life the way it is, and I choose life the way it isn't. And whatever that I choose, if I choose being not vulnerable today, and I'm holding on to that, and I'm choosing not being vulnerable the way it is and the way it isn't, then guess what? I have vulnerability. It doesn't have me. So I could let it go. Or I could hold on to not being vulnerable. And clearly, 41 years of that, I know what I'm going to get if I don't be vulnerable. I know what that's going to be some damage because I already know. So now I get to let not being vulnerable go the way it is and the way it isn't. And I experience this level of just peace. Like I experienced being whole and complete. When I chose life the way it is and the way it isn't, I now can practice experiencing being complete as a person. Because it doesn't have me, I have it. Me and my daughter, before she took off, we were talking and we were having breakfast, her and I ate. And I tried to explain to her what that looks like if I'm holding on to something I don't know I'm holding on to. And I had this spoon and I was sharing with her, like, imagine this is me not being vulnerable and I'm holding on to it, right? I'm holding on to this. Let me give you a bigger screen so you can see this demonstration. All right. Imagine this Beats case is me not being vulnerable and I'm carrying it. And I've been carrying this for 41 years in my hand, right? So imagine I'm not being vulnerable, right? So when I go and touch myself and not being vulnerable, it's right. I'm holding on to it. And if I rub myself or rub my head or scratch my face, this is not being vulnerable. And I've been holding it so long that I don't even recognize that it's even there. I made that decision and I held on to not being vulnerable. And so my experience of myself is now this. So imagine that I'm walking around and I'm doing all this and this is not being vulnerable. And I'm just yes, I'm not being vulnerable. Do you see? I have to first realize that I'm holding on this thing to let it go. That's the work. That's the work that I've done most recently. But this is not being vulnerable. And imagine you take a shower and you going out on your dates and you going out hanging out, you going to the party, you going to church, you going all over, wherever you go. When you show up, I'm holding on, and so what will somebody say if they saw this? Oh man, you got your headphones with you? I'd be like, I always have my headphones with me. What are you talking about? I always have my headphones with me. That's not nothing new. But I'm not being vulnerable. And this is what shows up. If I have a suit on, if I have on some jeans, or I'm at the gym playing basketball, I got my headphones on me. I got not being vulnerable on me. But I realized just a few weeks ago that I can hold these headphones the way they are and the way they're not. And now that I can hold them the way they are and the way they're not, I could either pick them up or I could let them go. And that's the experience of what it felt like not being vulnerable for 41 years. That I would hit myself in the head with these headphones for 41 years and not realizing that I'm holding on to the headphones. It's like, do you imagine that if you put on some yellow tinted sunglasses at 10 years old, that you got these yellow tinted sunglasses and you put them on, and your parents let you wear those yellow sunglasses forever, till you're 35 or 40 years old. So from 10 to 40, you've worn these yellow sunglasses that you didn't have to take off. You wash your face with them on. You take a shower with them on. You go wherever. You go to school with them on, because these are your yellow tinted sunglasses. Now imagine at 40 years old, you take those yellow tinted sunglasses, come off, and you realize it's not yellow outside. You realize after 30 years of wearing these glasses that it's not really yellow. It's actually bright and clear outside. Imagine how you've looked at life through those yellow sunglasses for 30 years. Imagine the colors that you looked at that now don't look the same because you took those sunglasses off that are yellow tinted, and now you see colors differently. You got to go back and challenge your whole perception of life. You got to go back and question everything that you saw through those yellow tinted sunglasses. That's 30 years. Do you know I had to go back and look at not being vulnerable for 41 years and the impact, not just on other people, but on myself of not being vulnerable? I killed off a lot of relationships. I destroyed a lot of friendships from not being vulnerable. Maybe it's 1 foot in and 1 foot out of a relationship. Now, I'm not proud of that, but what I did was I took responsibility for my behavior. And I got present to the impact of my life and the impact on other people's life. But what I got most importantly was I got the body sensation of experiencing what it felt like that day at 14 to no longer want to be vulnerable. At 14. And I sat here in my office at 55 years old, and I felt that anxiety of that 14-year-old teenage boy in junior high school that told himself that day, I'm not going to be vulnerable and I have to defend myself, because the pain that I had in my body from that experience was so traumatizing that that's the only way that I could suppress it. See, that thought and that story and that word was connected to that body sensation. But guess what? Sometimes the body sensation comes up on its own. And then I'm like, oh, shoot, I'm not vulnerable. Oh, that's right. What is that? What is that feeling? Oh, that feels like I'm not. Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm uncomfortable. And to have that body sensation, the last piece of that not being vulnerable, show up in my body. And over time, release it. See, I could say not being vulnerable. I could almost still feel the tingling. But the thought and the story connected to the experience is disappearing. So I believe that a lot of the healing that we need to be able to process is the body sensations, because of the pain, the aches, the gut that I had at 8 years old as a latchkey kid, thinking I'm abandoned. The feeling of my dad not loving me. The feeling of a 2-year-old being disconnected. There's body sensations connected to that for some. I don't know if there was a 2-year-old disconnection body sensation. Well, maybe it was, because I could feel it when I said it. I felt that one in my thighs. All right. I appreciate you for listening today. What can I say? Nothing. You have to be willing to do the work. I'm a patient advocate. I'm open to have a conversation with you. I'm not a therapist, but I have a stand for God's people and for those that are willing to do the work. And maybe this conversation will allow you to just self-examine yourself with it. I'm not asking you to change. I'm asking you to look at life from another perception. I'm asking you to go talk to your family and find out what was going on when you was born. Find out what life was like for your mom and dad growing up. See, a lot of times we know that, but we don't live from that, and compassion doesn't come from that if you don't live from that space of compassion of what they went through to raise you. People come to the United States from all parts of the world. We talk about immigrants. People came as second-class citizens, fleeing their own countries or being brought over here enslaved to work. But how many people came to the United States? How many of your great-great-great-grandfathers came to the United States fleeing their country from famine or war or being killed, that fled their homeland to come to the United States for a better opportunity? They came here for, but guess what? What if they didn't come and heal their hearts from the experiences of their generational past? What if your great-great-grandfather came here, but he also brought the experience of the trauma with him? I've heard people say that my grandfather changed our name because they wanted the name to fit in, so they changed it. Or they signed in as a second-class citizen with a different first name so that John Steve could be a regular name. And then we act like that's not hurtful. Do you understand? Do we not see that? Many of us have ancestral healing that we haven't done. Many of us have ancestral healing that has been passed on to us as conversations at the dinner table, at Thanksgiving, at 4th of July, at whatever family dinner. And we hear as children them talk about the man, Mr. Charlie, as my buddy talks about, and God. And now you have all these, like, what if there's a God that you say, then why would he allow Mr. Charlie to control the world? Why would he allow me to experience this pain that I'm going through if we have a God? And now everything is questioned. And that's why I'm here. I'm here to share that you can be willing to look and make corrections in your own life first. But you got to be willing to do the work. And be willing means you got to be willing to tell the truth about how your character is, your behavior, your personality, and your body language. I'm the common denominator in all of my relationships. Wherever I go, Farron shows up. So I could blame people around me, or I need to look at some point, look at Farron, because some of the stuff that I keep hearing is common. And so maybe it is me. And that could be hard for someone to say, you know what, maybe I am what's going on. Maybe it is my behavior. Maybe it is my character. Maybe it is my personality. Maybe it is my body language. And no one wants to hang around me because of my body language. But the body language has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with me. So remember that. When you look at people and they have a negative attitude or negative personality, or their body language is sluggish, it may not be about you. It may be something that they're dealing with in their own life. But we're quick to make it mean something about me because I'm already dealing with my own issues, because I'm already not good enough to myself. So then I'm not going to be good enough for her. I'm not going to be enough for him. I'm not going to be good enough for anybody or my parents, because I already feel that I'm not good enough to myself, about myself. And then we blame other people, but I got these three pointing at me. You've seen it. All right, I'm out of here. I appreciate y'all. The Farron Dozier Show on the Military Broadcast Radio Network. Have Had a blast. If you want information about the Life of the series, that's the link tree, or you can definitely go to farrond.com and take a look at that. Like I said, I'm an author. I'm not even on that label yet, but I do know that those conversations are important, and so I'm figuring out. I just show up. I just show up being the messages and listening and meeting people where they are. And I pray that some of this stuff allows you to do some self-examination, which would lead to reconciliation to your parents, to your father, to your mother. When I healed those relationships, my whole life opened up. That's all I could tell you. That's how I explain it. It's like the room got brighter. Each time I peeled off a layer, it's just like my life aliveness came back. It cost you something to be angry and frustrated to the people that you love. It cost you something to do it to a stranger that could take your life. It cost affinity, peace, aliveness, joy, peace of mind. There's a cost being used by those frustrations. There's a cost to live from worry. It costs you your health sometimes. Stress. It costs to live from stress. It costs for the disempowering conversations. They cost. And sometimes they cost life. All right. I appreciate y'all. I'm out of here. Shout us out. What's the count? Oh, WDC on SCT.org. If you want to check out the progress of going to Africa coming up. I got link trees as well. You can go there. A lot of conversations supporting the LBI solutions conversation. That's for our veteran and youth. Working with Caldwell Williams. That's a part of my journey as well right now. And also EQ Athletics. Everything. And for the basketball, IEHounds.com. We have a game this coming Saturday, the 31st, and also Sunday, the 1st. So go to IEHounds.com, get you some tickets, come hang out, and enjoy the road to Atlanta is where the championship is this year. Right now we are 8-4. 8-4 is our record. Last year was 17-3. So we're not doing too bad this year. And I believe that I have courage and confidence, a level of confidence in these players that they can finish the season without any more losses. We can end up being 16-4. We got 8 games left. So I have confidence in them. They just have to find it for themselves. All right. I think that's good enough. I appreciate y'all. Shout out What's the Count, the Farron Dozier Show. Oh, KCA Radio. I'm moving from Sunday nights at 8 p.m. to Tuesday at 6 p.m. I originally started on Tuesdays in 2021. When I first went to KCA Radio, I was there Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Guess what? I'm back to Tuesdays at 6 p.m. So make sure you check us out over there. There's some conversations we're going to be having similar to this around youth and men and development of our children. So make sure you come and you check that out over there as well. All right. This is the Farron Dozier Show on the Military Broadcast Radio Network. Shout us out. What's the count?
Life is like a duck. Tough times don't last, but tough people do. Here at Military Broadcast Radio, we're teaming up with our friends at Die Tired, the veteran-friendly music band spreading strength, resilience, and mental health awareness, one shirt at a time.
And check this out. Their brand new shirts feature broadcast beaker right on the breast pocket. A reminder that you can weather the storm and you're never alone.
Shirts are only $25 and proceeds support giving veterans a voice. MBR's mission to teach veterans how to podcast and videocast. Because when our vets are talking, they're not overthinking. They're not second-guessing. Together, we stop the 22 stigma. Grab your shirt today at mbradio.us and hit the shop. Or go directly to toramerch.printavo.com/merch/dietiredband. That's toramerch.printavo.com/merch/dietiredband.
Suit up, Stand strong.
Remember, we're unduckable together.
You're built tougher than the storm.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to Military Broadcast Radio. As we wrap up today's show, we want to remind you that the podcast of today's episode will be available right after we go off the air. So if you missed any part of the show or want to listen again, be sure to check it out. And remember, we're here to support and honor our veterans. Your stories and experiences matter, and we are committed to giving you a platform to share them. That's right. We're here to give our veterans a voice. So don't forget to catch the podcast and stay connected with us. Giving our veterans a voice.